Welcome to our cooking channel. Today we're going to be baking a cake. As you can see, my partners Kendall Fisher and Andrew Morris are coming in with all the ingredients to make this beautiful computer cake. Let's see what you got here. First ingredient for this computer will be the motherboard. Kendall, may you get the motherboard for me, please?
Yes, I can.
This is the motherboard. The motherboard is a must-complemented computer component. It is the form factor determines the motherboard size and features.
There are different types of motherboards. Some are ATX, micro ATX, and a mini ITX. This motherboard that we have here is called an ATX motherboard. The next ingredient we will need for this computer will be a CPU, also called a processor. We use these electrical wrist wraps to make sure we don't damage the CPU when we are inserting it. The CPU determines the system computing power. The two main processors that create a CPU is Intel and AMD. But this is an Intel processor.
So, the next part we're going to introduce is the heatsink, the cooling fan attached. The heatsink is this metal part right here. It is a passive cooling device with metal fins that allow the heat to rise and expand out of it. When the heatsink gets too hot, the cooling fan will turn on and dissipate the heat out of it. Also called random access memory. The RAM is a form of computer data storage that stores data and machine code currently being used. It holds program instructions used by the CPU. This type of RAM is a 24-pin DDR3 DIMM. DIMM stands for Dual Inline Memory Module. computer would be the hard drive.
a magnetic storage device that holds 320 gigabytes.
The next ingredient that we're going to be using for this computer will be the optical drive. The optical drive uses lasers light as a part of the process of reading or writing data from the optical disc. The types of the ODD is CD drive, DVD drive, Blu-ray drive. The CD drive is a device computer uses to read and write data from. And to insert the optical drive, you insert it from the slot like this. Push it until you hear a click.
The next ingredient we would need is SATA cables. SATA cables are a computer bus interface that connects host bus adapters to mass storage devices like the hard drive. It communicates via high-speed serial cables.
The power supply converts main ACs to the lower voltage, regulates DC power. The form factor is ATX.
On the motherboard, there are several chip-based technologies. The first we're going to talk about is the chipset. You can't see it right now because it's covered up by a heatsink, which keeps it cooled. But the chipset controls all the traffic of data that flows through the motherboard. After the CPU tells the chipset what to do, and the chipset tells the parts what to do. It gets really hot, so it has to have a heatsink over it to protect it. There's two different chipsets on the motherboard, a fast one integrated within the CPU, and a slower one, which is located right here. The CMOS battery powers the CMOS chip. This chip regulates the time and date for your computer, even when it is powered off, and also helps store data that is used in startup tests. The BIOS chip is the basic operations of the computer and is basically commands your hardware without going into your operating system. If you have a hardware issue, BIOS will detect it, and you can get into BIOS before you boot up your operating system if you want to change your boot order or edit the hardware, or edit the way the hardware communicates with each other.